Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into something I think we could all use a little help with sometimes. How to focus like a laser beam.
Yeah.
Especially when you're studying.
Yeah, focus is so important.
It really is. And we found this awesome piece called How to Focus on Your Study, 15 Powerful Tips for Maximum Concentration. And it's got some seriously cool tricks.
Oh yeah. Like what?
Like this thing called the Pomodoro technique, and learning how to figure out when you're most productive during the day.
Oh, that's a good one.
It is.
Yeah.
And also why multitasking is actually a total myth,
Right.
which I think we've all kind of fallen for that myth at some point.
Oh, absolutely. It's tempting for sure.
So today's going to be all about giving you the tools to really boost that concentration.
I think a lot of people believe that focus is just something you're either born with or you're not.
Right.
But the truth is, it's way more like a muscle you can train and strengthen over time.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Oh.
It's like building up your focus stamina. I love that. Okay, so the first thing this piece dives into is the idea of setting the stage for successful studying. And it's not just about like cracking open your textbook, It's about creating an environment that really tells your brain, okay, it's focus time.
It's like setting the mood.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the source really stresses having a clear goal in mind.
Okay.
Because, it might seem simple, but actually knowing exactly what you want to accomplish in your study session can make a world of difference.
Totally.
Without a specific target, it's way too easy to kind of drift off and get sidetracked.
Yeah, your brain needs like a roadmap.
Exactly.
And I love this tip. They have to just write down your goal on a sticky note and keep it somewhere you can see it.
Oh, that's good.
It's like a little mission statement for your study session.
I like that. It's a visual reminder to keep you on track.
Totally. Now, another thing they emphasize is having a dedicated study space.
Oh, this is so key. Our brains are actually really good at making connections between certain places and how we act in them.
So like if you're always studying in bed, your brain might not fully switch into that focus mode.
Yeah, exactly. It can get confusing for your brain. It's like, wait, am I supposed to be sleeping or studying here?
That's so interesting. So I'm guilty of this for sure. Do you think it really makes that much of a difference?
It can. Having a spot that's just for studying sends a clear signal to your mind that it's time to buckle down and concentrate.
Okay.
And keeping that space tidy can help too.
Makes sense. Clutter can be distracting.
Yeah, visual clutter, like a messy desk, can really pull your attention away from what you're trying to focus on.
For sure. Now, this guide also goes deep on fighting distractions, both the external ones around us, like, noise and people.
Oh, yeah.
And then the internal ones too.
The ones in our heads.
Yes. So those pesky thoughts that just pop up.
Yeah.
It suggests building routines that minimize distractions as much as possible.
Yes. Boundaries are key.
Yes.
Letting the people around you know that, hey, I need some quiet time to focus. That's huge.
It is.
And then, of course, there's technology.
Oh, yeah, the double-edged sword.
It can be so helpful, but also such a distraction.
Totally.
So silencing notifications or even using apps that block distracting websites.
Oh, like Freedom or something?
Yeah, exactly. Those can be game changers for a lot of people.
I've heard about those, but I've never actually tried them. I'm always like, oh, I can do it myself, but maybe I need some help.
Sometimes a little external support can make a big difference.
True. The guide also mentions using white noise or instrumental music if background noise is a problem.
I'm a big fan of lo-fi beats when I'm writing.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Those can be super helpful for creating a calm and focused environment.
It's like creating your own little focus bubble.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about setting the stage, minimizing distractions, but then there's the actual learning part.
Right, getting down to business.
Yeah, so the guide is really big on this idea of active learning, which makes sense. Just passively reading through material doesn't always cut it.
No, it's about really engaging with what you're trying to learn.
So like taking notes. Yeah, taking notes, summarizing things in your own words.
Or even pretending you're teaching it to someone else.
Exactly. That's a great technique.
Yeah, and then there's this really interesting technique I'd never heard of before called the Feynman technique.
Oh, tell me about it.
So it's all about simplifying things. The idea is that if you can't explain something simply,
Yeah,
you don't really understand it.
that makes sense.
So like try explaining a concept you're studying as if you were teaching it to a child.
I like that. It forces you to really break it down.
Yeah, it's a brilliant way to test your knowledge and see where you might have gaps.
And it highlights a big trap that a lot of us fall into.
What's that?
The myth of multitasking.
Ah, multitasking, my nemesis.
Right.
We've all been there thinking we can juggle a million things at once and be super productive.
Yeah, like, oh, I'll just answer these emails while I'm reading this chapter and also texting my friend.
Yeah, but the research just doesn't back that up, does it?
No, not at all. Multitasking actually makes us less efficient and more prone to making mistakes.
It's like trying to drive a car text and hold a conversation all at the same time.
Exactly. Something's bound to go wrong.
And when it comes to studying those mistakes, could mean missing key concepts or not fully understanding the material.
Right. So instead of multitasking, the guide suggests batching similar tasks together.
Oh, I haven't heard of that. What's batching?
So let's say you need to write an essay and review some flashcards.
Okay.
Instead of switching back and forth, dedicate a block of time to each task separately.
Okay.
That way you can really focus on one thing at a time.
That makes so much sense. It's like giving your brain permission to fully immerse itself in one task before moving on to the next.
Yeah, and it helps minimize those mental switching costs.
Yeah.
You're not constantly trying to jump between different modes of thinking.
It's like giving your brain a break.
Exactly. And speaking of breaks, that leads us to another crucial element that the guide highlights.
Yes, breaks are so important. I feel like we often try to power through without them, but our brains really need time to recharge.
They do. Regular breaks are essential for preventing burnout.
But it's not just about any break, right?
No, it's about using those breaks strategically. Mindlessly scrolling through social media or getting lost in a YouTube rabbit hole won't really refresh you.
Right, it's like giving your brain junk food instead of a healthy snack.
Exactly. Instead, try a short walk, some stretching, or even some deep breathing exercises.
What do you like to do during your study breaks?
I'm a big fan of going for a quick walk. Even just 5 or 10 minutes outside can make a big difference.
Oh yeah, I love walks. Sometimes I'll listen to a podcast while I walk, but maybe I should try being more mindful, just paying attention to the sounds and sights around me.
That's a great idea. And speaking of mindfulness, the guide introduces it as a really powerful tool for improving focus.
Yes, mindfulness has become such a buzzword lately. But I have to admit, I'm still a little fuzzy on what it actually is and how it can help with focus.
Sure. So mindfulness is all about bringing your attention to the present moment without judgment. It's a skill you can develop with practice. Even just a few minutes a day can make a big difference in your concentration and your stress levels.
Interesting. So are there specific exercises you can do to practice mindfulness?
There are lots of different techniques. One simple one is to just focus on your breath. Notice the sensation of your breath as you inhale and exhale.
Okay.
And when your mind wanders, which it inevitably will just gently guide it back to your breath.
I've also heard about these apps like Headspace that can help you practice mindfulness.
Oh yeah, those are great. They can be a really good way to get started if you're new to mindfulness.
And they even have guided meditations specifically for focus.
They do. Because you know what's really fascinating is that mindfulness and focus are actually closely connected.
In what way?
Well, when we're mindful, we're less likely to be pulled away by distracting thoughts.
Right. It's like you're training your brain to stay present.
Exactly. You're better able to stay focused on whatever you're doing in that moment.
Wow. When you put it that way, it makes perfect sense.
It's all about strengthening that attention muscle.
Okay, so we've covered setting the stage, fighting distractions, maximizing study time, active learning, the multitasking myth, and the importance of breaks and mindfulness.
That's a lot.
It is. That's a ton of valuable information already.
It is, and we're just getting started.
There's more.
Oh yeah, there are even more practical tips to uncover that can help you optimize your focus and study habits. But maybe we should pause here for now.
Okay, that's a great idea. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll dive into even more strategies for fueling your brain and maximizing your learning potential. Stay tuned. Okay, so we're back, and I'm ready to hear about how to keep our brains fueled and ready to learn.
Oh yeah, this is a good one. The guide really highlights the connection between our physical well-being and our ability to focus.
So like how taking care of our bodies can actually help us think better?
Exactly. It's like trying to run a car on an empty tank.
You're not going to get very far.
Nope. And the guide specifically talks about hydration and brain-boosting foods as being super important.
Okay, so let's break those down. First, hydration. I think a lot of us forget to drink water when we're in the zone.
Oh, it's so easy to do, but even mild dehydration can really drain your energy and make it harder to think clearly.
So just keeping a water bottle nearby while you're studying can make a big difference.
It's a simple change, but it can have a big impact.
Do you know what? I'm actually really bad at remembering to drink water when I'm focused on something.
Oh yeah, I hear ya.
Maybe I need to set reminders or get one of those fancy water bottles with the time markings on them.
Those are great. I always try to keep a big glass of water on my desk and refill it throughout the day.
Ooh, that's smart.
Sometimes I even add a slice of lemon or cucumber to make it a little more fun.
Ooh, that's a good idea. It's like a little spa treatment for your brain.
Exactly. Okay, so let's talk brain-boosting foods. The guide recommends incorporating foods that are rich in omega-3 fatty acids,
Okay.
antioxidants, and protein.
So things like nuts and fish.
Yes, and dark chocolate.
Ooh, dark chocolate for focus. I like the sound of that.
And blueberries, too. They're packed with antioxidants.
That actually sounds like a pretty delicious way to support focus.
It does, doesn't it?
Huh.
And on the flip side, the guide also talks about foods that can actually hinder concentration.
Oh yeah, like those sugary snacks and processed foods that give
Yeah.
you that initial energy boost, but then you just crash.
Exactly. They can lead to brain fog and make it harder to stay
Oh,
focused.
definitely been there.
So yeah, opting for whole nutrient-rich foods over processed ones can make a noticeable difference in your energy levels and your ability to concentrate.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've got hydration, we've got nutrition, but there's another big one we can't ignore: sleep.
Oh, sleep is crucial.
It is, but I feel like it's something we all struggle with, especially when deadlines are approaching.
Oh, absolutely. But the guide emphasizes that a tired brain just can't function at its best.
It's like trying to run a marathon on an hour of sleep.
You're setting yourself up for failure.
So how much sleep do we really need to keep our brains sharp?
The guide recommends aiming for at least 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep each night.
Quality sleep, that's key, isn't it?
It is. It's not just about the quantity, but the quality.
Because I think a lot of people could use some tips on how to actually improve their sleep quality.
Totally. Creating a relaxing bedtime routine can help.
Like taking a warm bath or reading a book.
Exactly. And avoiding screens before bed is huge.
Oh yeah, the blue light is a killer.
It can really interfere with your sleep. And then making sure your sleep environment is cool, dark, and quiet.
That's so important.
Those are all things that can contribute to better sleep quality.
It's like setting yourself up for a good night's rest.
Exactly. And it's fascinating to think about how sleep isn't just about resting our bodies.
It's about our brains too.
Yeah, it's when our brains consolidate memories and process information.
So getting enough sleep is actually essential for learning and remembering things.
Exactly. It's like our brains are working behind the scenes while we're sleeping, filing away all that information we took in during the day.
Amazing how our bodies work. Okay, so moving on to something a little more techie. The guide also talks about study apps and technology.
Oh, yes. There's a whole world of apps out there designed to help you study more effectively.
I love apps. The guide mentions Anki for flashcards, Evernote for note-taking, and Notion for organizing everything.
Ooh, those are good ones. Have you tried any of those?
I've dabbled in a few, but I'm always curious to hear what other people are using.
Yeah, the key is to find what works best for you and integrate it into your workflow.
Right, you don't want to overwhelm yourself with too many tools.
Exactly, but it's great to have options.
I agree. Okay, so on that note of having options, the guide also encourages us to be flexible with our study methods.
This is so important.
It is, because sometimes we get stuck in a rut using the same methods, even if they're not really working for us anymore.
We do. So the guide suggests exploring different approaches, like switching from reading to watching videos or listening to audio lectures.
Oh, I love that, because we all learn in different ways.
We do. And sometimes just changing things up can help you re-engage with the material.
That's a great point. And I think it's important to remember that learning should be enjoyable.
Absolutely. It shouldn't feel like a chore.
And speaking of things that make learning more enjoyable, the guide also emphasizes the power of rewards.
Oh, yes. Rewards are so important.
They are. It's all about celebrating those small wins and acknowledging the effort you're putting in.
Exactly. Whether it's a small treat, a short break, or an episode of your favorite show, those little rewards can really help to reinforce those positive study habits.
So giving yourself a little pat on the back?
Exactly. But rewards are only part of the equation. Ultimately, it all comes down to consistency.
Right. So making those study habits a regular part of your routine.
Exactly. The guide emphasizes that focus, like any skill, takes practice.
It's not something that happens overnight.
No, it's about making those small efforts consistently over time.
So instead of those marathon study sessions that leave you feeling exhausted and burnt out,
Yeah, those are not sustainable.
it's about finding a rhythm that you can maintain.
A pace that works for you. And that's a message that resonates throughout the entire guide. Focus is a skill that can be developed and strengthened with effort and the right strategies.
It's an empowering message.
It is. It means that no matter where you are in your learning journey, you have the power to improve your focus.
And unlock your full potential.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that focus isn't something you're born with. It's something you cultivate through practice and a willingness to try new things.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive on focus. Everything from setting the stage to fueling our brains and even embracing technology.
It's been a whirlwind.
It has, but in a good way.
Definitely.
So many practical tips, and I think one of the most important takeaways is that anyone can improve their focus.
Absolutely. It's not some magical ability that some people just have and others don't.
Right, it's a skill you can develop.
Exactly.
It's like you were saying earlier,
Yeah.
It's a muscle that gets stronger with use.
Yes. And this guide has given us a whole workout routine for our focus muscles.
It really has.
Yeah.
We talked about setting clear goals, creating a dedicated study space, fighting distractions, tapping into those peak productivity hours.
And embracing active learning, debunking, multitasking, prioritizing breaks, and mindfulness.
It's like a whole toolbox for tackling focus challenges.
And the best part is you can experiment and find what works best for you.
Exactly. There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Nope. It's about finding the techniques that resonate with your individual learning style.
Totally. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I'd love to leave our listeners with a little challenge.
Oh, I like that.
Something they can take away and actually apply to their lives.
Okay, let's do it.
So for our amazing listener out there, I want you to think about this. What's one small change you can make today to incorporate just one of these tips into your study routine?
It doesn't have to be anything huge. Maybe it's setting a timer for 25 minutes of focused work or just decluttering your study space.
I love that. Start small, experiment, and be patient with yourself.
Focus is a journey.
It is. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
And we're all in this together. So keep learning, keep practicing, and most importantly, keep believing in your ability to focus and achieve your goals. That's it for this deep dive on focus. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.